New thumbnails, same hobby nightmares. Hopefully you're having a good week, folks. Hope everything is going well wherever you are in the world, and you're having an awesome time of it as we start the new week. It is time for some hobby nightmares. Today we have a Games Workshop manager telling us all of his tales of his tribulations whilst working for the company, and we also have a rather besieged hobbyist who is regretting his wife finding out just how much he spends on his beloved toy soldiers. Before we get into that, though, if you have any hobby nightmares to send in, make sure you do so to hobbynightmares@gmail.com. That is hobbynightmares@gmail.com, and I'll get them read out for you as quickly as humanly possible. We have a medium-sized mailbag right now, so I'm hoping that we get a few more in, that I can start really drilling down into them, and getting some more content on the go for you as well. Right, let's jump in, shall we, with our first hobby nightmare from Romerus. And he says, "Hi North, please call me Romerus. I hail from sunny Brisbane in Australia, and have a hobby nightmare for you that I wanted to share. It happened quite a few years ago, but still makes me shiver to this day. Around 15 years ago, there was a local store that sold Games Workshop's products, of course. I was a regular visitor and purchaser from the store, but at the time, I didn't want my wife to find out just how much of my wages was going into the hobby. Not because I was being evasive or deceptive, it's just because she didn't see the appeal and I didn't want to have the argument or justify my position. You know the old saying, easier to ask forgiveness than beg for permission." I think I think the phrase is it's easier to beg forgiveness than ask for permission. But okay, we can swap them around if you want. "It was coming up to my birthday, and the wife knew I wanted some hobby stuff, so, unknown to me, she went to said local store. On this day, the owner wasn't there. A bit of background. He was in a similar position to myself and understood bro code when it comes to hobby purchases. Anyway, my wife arrived in the store and went up to the person working at the counter and mentioned that her husband played in the store and brought the occasional box of models or paint. The person behind the counter asked for my name. When my wife mentioned it, he said, 'Oh yeah, I know him.' She then asked of the person manning the counter if he knew what I bought so that she could get me some of the same things for me. The counter person then said, 'Better take a sip of tea here.' Sure, I can print out his account for you, which shows everything he's bought. Pages and pages then start coming off to the printer of all of my purchases. My wife thanked the person, collected the pages, and left." Oh no. Oh no. Oh, there's a lot of things wrong here. Number one, guys, we all know omerta exists. Bro code exists. If you don't know what omerta is, it's the mafia code of silence, right? You just don't, you know, what you don't know can't hurt her. We're all lads here. We're all trying to keep each other safe and keep each other all right. Some guys will know the right thing to do in every situation. Okay, so obviously this store manager does. He knows when the wife comes in, just say, "Yeah, you buy Space Marines. Here they are," right? Every now and again, how many does he buy? Even if she asks you how many does he buy, you either say nothing or you lie your ass off. That's what you say. He gets one box a month or something like that. You cover for your friends is what you do. Now, if they're doing something more toxic than that, I've always erred on the side of, you know, I don't know, sort of a thing. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not my business. You know, a lot of people out there, like, I've had friends in university who were cheating on the girlfriends, and the girlfriends would say, "Oh, where was he? You know, what was he doing?" And most of the time, I don't know. Because as soon as I find out my friend is cheating on their girlfriend, I'll kind of distance myself from them, because I know it's going to blow up, and I don't want any part of it, right? So I'll be like, okay, you know, I'm going to go over here. Because if your girlfriend asks me where you were, I don't want to lie to her. I will if I have to, because I'm your friend, but I don't want to. So I don't want to know what you're doing. I want to be able to say, I don't know. That's what you should do. That's what a murder is, lads, alright? It's not betraying your friend's trust. You keep his secrets, essentially, right? You don't tell anybody nothing. You didn't see nothing. You weren't there. You know, that kind of a thing. There's nothing lower in my opinion than a friend who goes and tattles on you for like the slightest things. I've had friends like that in the past. I've not done anything as serious as cheat on anybody, but it's been like, you know, something like If I'm out with my mates and we're having a couple of beers, my missus is like, how much did you drink? And I'm like, oh, 3 beers. And we had like 8. You know, I'm back home safe. I'm back home on time. Do you know what I mean? She can't have a go at me. And then she wonders why I just fall asleep. You know, but there you go. That's why, right? At the time, but I had a friend who actually told her when she asked, oh, how much did you drink? He was, oh, well, he drank loads, drank like 8 pints. Bet you told you drank like 3 or 4, right? You know, that guy was cut out of my life, lads. And he didn't understand why. He didn't understand why. It's like, yeah, one text, mate, we're not friends anymore. You did this, and I explained it to him. You did this, right? I can't trust you. You're not in the circle. Go away, right? And that was it. Went out for a few pints with him, including groups, right? If somebody else invited him along, I'd still go, but we'd stay clear of each other. I was not his biggest fan, because you just don't do that to your friends, right? You just go, yeah, do you know what? He had a couple of pints, and that's all I'll say, right? We all had a few pints, but he got home safe, didn't he? Yeah, it was all right. It's all good, right? Job done. Job done. You don't throw your mates under the bus, especially not for something as, like, light as that. So that's what bro code is. A few people have asked on previous Hobby Nightmares when Omerta, bro code has come up. A few people have been like, what is that? Like, what do you mean? Well, that's what I mean, right? You keep your friends secret. As long as it's nothing too severe, right? And it's not going to do him any harm. You just make sure that you don't introduce any sort of stress to his life. And you definitely don't talk behind his back to his loved ones. Definitely not. That's a strict break of bro code. You do not do that, right? Again, the guy didn't even get it either. He's like, why? Why? I mean, dude, like, you literally made jokes about me to my girlfriend behind my back and then outed me for having several pints, right? I got home that night, you know, really drunk, and she knows I've had more than 3 pints. Do you know what I mean? She knows. But I'm like, I've had 3 or 4, whatever, I'm going to bed, and that kind of a thing. And she let it go. And she'd only said it in passing to my friend, and because she knew what she was doing, of course. She was trying to get information. And all of my other friends were like, nah, we all had a couple of pints and went home. That's all they said. We all had a couple of pints and went home. It was only him who said, oh, North, oh yeah, he had like 8. Bet you was dead smash when he got home, right? I was like, dude, either you want an in with my girlfriend somehow, or you're that much of a dick. Either way, I don't want you around me anymore, so see you later. May seem harsh to you, but as soon as you let me know who you are, lads, you know, I give everybody a chance. If you let me know who you are, and who you are as a piece of shit, then I will leave. I'll be like, okay, well, that's who you are then. See you later. Alright. When I got home that day, I walked into the kitchen and saw the small pile of paper on the table and noticed it had the store's name on it. My wife was sitting at the end of the table and just looked at me and said, is there something you want to tell me? As I mentioned, this was many years ago, and we got through this little bump in the road. I'm still very much into the hobby, and she, my wife, is very supportive of this. This was a hobby nightmare at the time, but since then, everything has kind of worked out. These days, my wife is very aware of how important the hobby is to my mental health. Dude, okay, if somebody loves you, right, you could come to them with a hobby of fucking tiddlywinks, right? I play tiddlywinks in my spare time. She'll probably be like, okay, why? It's good for my mental health and lets me switch off my brain. If she loves you, she goes, okay, that's cool. Maybe I can get you a set for Christmas. I don't know. Hit me up with some ideas. Maybe get you like a cute little Tiddlywinks t-shirt, right? That's what your wife does. Okay. If you get anything other than that, if you get any judgment, you probably need to look at this relationship again. Let's be honest. Unless you've been with her for years and years and years and years and years. Do you know what I mean? If this is a new relationship, you probably need to take a step back and have a look at it. Just, you know, what's going on here? Is this really what we want? Sort of a thing. But like, dude, yeah, your wife did the right thing. You know, she came back and was like, you know, because you've told her I think you've left some stuff out here. I think you've told her that you don't spend that much in the store. Do you know what I mean? I think that her reaction of, is there something you want to tell me, is kind of like you've cheated on her or something. You know what I mean? So I think you've actually said to her in the past, oh yeah, I don't get very much from the store, only bits and bobs here and there, you know. And then she sees all of that and she's like, well, you've just literally lied to me, so now you need to be honest with me, sort of thing. You've lied by omission, do you know what I'm Because a woman wouldn't I don't think she'd just react that way. Unless she's being an absolute bitch, then yeah, that's a really, But like, no, it seems like she's caught you in something here. And you've worked it out, which is great, which is awesome. Thanks for taking the time to read this out for one of your videos. I found your channel a little over 2 months ago. Well, this will be a long time ago now, because this is from last summer, this Hobby Nightmare. And now I'm an avid listener and supporter through YouTube. Thank you very much. Your videos are a welcome appearance in my daily recommendations on YouTube. Keep up the great work, sir. You're an important part of this community. Kind regards, Romerus. All right, man. Thank you very much. If you are somebody who's been watching the channel for a while, what do you think of the new thumbnails? Is it cool? Do you like it? Do you like the style? I've gone for a more like South Park-ish style to them, without being obviously South Park. Because while those are really cool, really lovely thumbnails, they're also like, you never know who might be watching, who actually holds the copyright to South Park. Anyway, our next Hobby Nightmare comes from Azak the Black. How's it going, man? He says, "Hello, North. First of all, it was lovely exchanging emails. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me. There's no problem, man. This, as you know, will be another of those ex-Games Workshop manager nightmares. My story happened a decade ago now, a little more actually, and some of the details are a bit hazy. I reached out to my old staff member Aaron, who was able to let me know I was on the right track with my recollections though. So, here we go. Alright. Abused Games Workshop manager is here to let us know what's been going on in his life. My store, back in the day, was an awesome place. I mean, I would say that, right? It was my store. Just like a lot of other Games Workshop managers, I mainly succeeded by keeping my head down and selling models, nodding along in training meetings, only speaking when called upon to do so, and never, ever sticking my head above the parapet. When heading into training with a full room of managers and other trainers, I learned quickly that those who were normal among us would be ridiculed if we spoke up. I mean that literally. Like, I'd see someone come up with an idea in training only to be laughed down by the trainer, and quiet notes taken about who they are. That sounds ridiculous, but it is true. Anything not quite towing the company line was dealt with, even when one manager innocently quipped that we sell a lot of Space Marines and don't really push any Xenos. He was told, and I quote, that he was running his store incorrectly if that was the case, which is kind of harsh in my opinion. He replied that he meant we only push Space Marines in our published works, White Dwarf, novels and such. He was met with absolute scorn. An innocent joke to a very tense situation, just like that. So yeah, this won't be a nightmare about those kind of situations, but they were a backdrop to what would eventually happen in the store. Alright, I'm with you on this one. Like, it is, I've heard it described as cult-like. Whenever I've done a video like this, when I've read something like this out, other Games Workshop managers have come out and been like, yeah, it's very cult-like, it's very, you are part of the in-crowd or you're not. I will say this, it is a very strange experience when you're there, and other managers will tell you the same thing. It's very, it's nebulous. You don't really know why it's happening. When you're there in training and you get this feeling of you don't belong, right? I remember sitting down for breakfast one day and people were talking about the latest, episodes of Game of Thrones or whatever around breakfast. Managers to the left and right of me, trainers, all sorts, and they're all having a gab and a giggle and all that. I'm sitting there on my own and nobody's making any effort with me. Now, I'm not the kind of person who's like, you need to know something about North, right? I don't give a shit whether you like me or not, or whether you talk to me or not. That's fine, right? But when we're in this sort of situation, and everybody's talking to everybody else, and nobody, you're literally sitting there like Jesus at the center of the, Jesus at the center of that, the Last Supper, painting. Everyone's looking away and talking to each other, and he's just there in the center. That's how I felt, right? You're literally there, like a boulder with water rushing around you, and it's like, do I smell? Like, what's going on, I would get that all the time, and that morning was one of the first mornings where I was like, yeah, I don't belong here. I shouldn't be in this job, because these people are not me, right? And I thought I was weird. I was the weird one, and only when I left the company, I was like, do you know what? No, actually, they were the weird ones, because, like, whenever I've met a Games Workshop manager, through friends, because a lot of friends that I would leave the company would still go out with other people who were in the company, so I'd meet them on nights out and things, and they were always the ones. It was like role reversal. Whenever I took a Games Workshop manager and they were in normal clothes and we were in a normal situation with normal people around them, I was then the regular one. I was the normal one, and they were the weirdos, right? But it really did flip when we were at training. It was almost like, okay, now it's our time. Nobody talk to this guy. He's normal. I know that sounds odd, but like, yeah. Anyway. The store would pretty much run itself. I had a decent community of older players who policed and gatekept their community quite responsibly. As such, the store had what I like to call an advanced immune system. If somebody came in who was a bit of a dick, or who simply rubbed people the wrong way, they would not be around for very long. I once saw Mark, one of our regulars, head over to an overweight man in a My Little Pony t-shirt, who was hanging around the beginner's table a little too long, looking at the players there a little too intently, while not saying anything. I was standing up from my own place behind the till to head over to check this guy out, before I heard Mark say, "Ah, hell no, mate, get out." The large man went pale and waddled out of the store very quickly. Turns out, Mark had caught him fondling himself idly whilst watching the young teens playing their 500-point game at the beginner's table. Right, okay, yeah. Unfortunately, does happen. Anybody who's worked in a Disney store will tell you it happens, right? It comes with the job, man. If you run a space where children frequent and are left to their own devices, yeah, you need to be very, very, very vigilant. I couldn't see from my vantage point. I gave Mark a free white dwarf, a free set of Space Marine Devastators, and instructed the lads at the veterans table that if they remained vigilant and caught stuff like this, there would be free models in it for them. Mark unfortunately moved away soon after, and a lot of the other better members of the Veterans Night also started to move away for university, work, marriages, and other things over the next few years. I worked for Games Workshop for a rather long time, so, year on year, this would kind of happen on and off. It was mainly about keeping the atmosphere in the store decent, and it worked pretty well. Then, there was Steve. Now, I will admit, I was immediately not Steve's greatest fan. He had this attitude of always knowing better than you. Even if you knew in yourself, he was just masking and knew very little of the current subject compared to your own knowledge. Dude, I have to say this, as a historian, I feel this like a dagger. As a historian, that really spoke to me. Happens all the time. All the time. So if you're a physicist, or you're into, mathematics, there's a right and a wrong answer. You know things other people do not, and most importantly, they can't pretend to know more than you because they fucking don't, right? In history, people have no such qualms. People will tell you you're wrong all the time. When they've done no research, they're not qualified, they don't know anything about the subject aside from what they've seen on Discovery Channel or what they've read about on Wikipedia. They will literally sit there and try and teach you about history. They'll try and teach you about the Roman Senate. They'll try and tell you that you're wrong about, your origins of slavery and things like that, especially when it doesn't conform with their own political worldview, right? They will talk down to you, and you're sitting there going, hey, oh, so glad I got these degrees and these doctorates, awesome, yeah, brilliant, yeah, what a fucking waste of time that was, right? Because nobody listens to you, they all think they know better than you, that's the problem, right? Dude, my own sister did this about history. I was sitting at the table, and she's a very clever woman, right? Knows exactly what she's really, really clever, works for scientific journals, all that fun stuff. But we're sitting around the table, and I can't even remember what we were talking about. It was a historical thing, and I was asked from my grandmother what was going on with this thing. I think it was something to do with the royal family, and I explained it to her. My sister then counteracts me, says, no, that's not how it is at all. I'm like, yes, it fucking is, right? I literally teach a module on this. Yes, it is. And my mother takes my sister's side because, as you do, there is a favourite in every family, ladies and gentlemen. It just is what it is. And by the way, I'm not just saying that. Like, I love my family, but I've had several friends and girlfriends come into the social dynamic and go, wow, yeah, there really is a favourite here, isn't there? And it ain't you, son. It's like, yeah, I know. Right, okay, it's fine. But like, you know, and I would sit there and people are like, well, why are you getting so defensive? Because I know what I'm fucking talking about and you don't. That's why. That's why. You act like my discipline is yours and it isn't. The same respect you give to that physicist over there, you should be giving to me. Because I know more about this than you do. And if you shut your trap for 5 seconds, you shut your hole, you might learn something. Simple. Right? My God. Just... like, I'm a big fan of my father-in-law. Do you know why? Because he came to me once when the new Gladiator film came out. And they had this scene where they flooded the arena. They flooded the Colosseum, right? The Flavian Amphitheatre. And they said, oh yeah, they used to always have sea battles in there. And I was like, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. Right? They may have had 1 or 2 either there or slightly nearby, but it was very, very, very shallow, right? What do you know why? Because it was always fucking draining away underneath. You look at the architecture, even look at Pliny and people like that who were alive at the time, will tell you most of the water would drain away and it would stink. Why? Because you're in Rome, son. Can you imagine filling a place with next to no sewage treatment facilities with stagnant water in a Mediterranean climate in the middle of summer in a city of over 1 million people, crammed into a very small space? Yes, it would stink and spread disease. Right? If it happened, and it did happen, you know, it was very shallow and very rare. Didn't happen every week. Didn't happen like they say it does in the movies. That's it. And do you know what he did? He went, wow, I never thought about it that way. Wow, well now I know something. And I was like, dude, I like you. I like you, right? Because he knows things. I love listening to people who know more than me about stuff. It's really... It's food for the brain, man. It's food for the soul. I love listening to it. But at the same time, it physically hurts my brain every time somebody thinks they know more about me than my specialist subject. I'm like, no, you fucking don't. Unless you've been in there for longer than I have and you've read something that I haven't, then you don't. Right? And it's completely fine. All of you, I'm telling you this now, it's completely fine to have that chip on your shoulder. If you've earned it. If you've earned it, if you've written papers on it, if you're absolutely passionate about it, and you know what you're doing, you know what you're saying, and your arguments are well researched, dude, have that chip on your shoulder, have intellectual discussions with people, and don't let people talk shit to you if you're in the humanities, because if you're in the humanities, it somehow gives everybody a free pass and license to tell you you're wrong, that they know more than you do, while they fucking don't, and you can tell them that North said they don't, and they can get in the fucking sea. Alright, cool, moving on. Anyway, it has been said, says Azak, that the wise man speaks because he has something to say, and the fool speaks because he feels he needs to speak. Well, Steve was, how do we say, not very wise. The issue here was that he was generally liked by the veterans who, despite their normal good judgment, had let a snake into the grass as far as I was concerned. Something else about Steve. He saw me as a bit of a target. I guess he thought that if he could get under the skin or make a fool out of the Games Workshop manager, that would give him some sort of nerd cred, quote unquote. And unfortunately, it would if he managed to do so. Despite how well the store was run and how popular it was, wearing the Games Workshop uniform basically makes you a target. On public transport, if you forget to take off your jumper in winter, you will get heckled by brainless nerds. Yeah, you will. Happened to me. You will. Yeah. Happened to me. Absolutely. I'd get both, though. I'd get positive and negative heckles. So I'd walk through like a train station with like a 40k bag, you know, with the Imperial Aquila on it. And people would like, oh, hey, you know, yeah, and they'd shout something cool out. Or you'd get, like, you know, derogatory Great Games Workshop. Or people would shout James at you as you were walking through. It's like, okay, dude, whatever. If you see somebody in a Games Workshop t-shirt walking through a train terminal, and your first thought is to shout James at the top of your lungs in public, you're a bit of a fucking retard. And you should probably, you know, go seek help somewhere. Sorry. just how I feel. You know, there are normal people in the world, and there are not so normal people in the world. If your rabid love for this hobby makes you shout at random people in the street, you probably need to be in a padded cell somewhere. Anyway. Well, Steve was one of those people. Brilliant, love him already. Someone who embodied every negative stereotype of the 40k nerd, not to normies, but to other 40k nerds. Quote from text-to-speech device, absolutely screeched across the store? Check. Whining and raging against any rule not specifically designed to give his boys, the Space Wolves, an edge, of course? Check. Laughing at the lore ideas of anybody else in discussions whilst never actually offering anything new of his own? Check. Trying to outwardly sabotage others who came into the store with their girlfriends by shouting things like, haha, she's not impressed, mate, across the store? Check. Dude, yeah. In one paragraph, I hate this motherfucker. In one paragraph. Oh my god. At this last one, I walked over to have a word with Steve. I'd given his behaviour a cooling off period, as I like to do in the store, to see if he would be policed by the group or police himself. But he ended up poisoning them instead. Hey Steve, would you mind not shouting across the store at customers you don't know? It kind of puts them off. You know what I mean? I said. He just looked at me scornfully, down his nose. Oh wow. So I can have a go at James, a Thousand Suns player, who he used to roast all the time. But as soon as it's something that can affect your bottom line, you step in. Typical Games Workshop, unquote. I was taken aback by his attitude and the front of this idiot. I looked over his shoulder to the veterans group, hoping for a bit of support. But they were now united behind their cult leader, apparently, all sniggering and laughing under their breath. I have no idea what came over me. It was not like me at all. I said, and I quote, listen, if you have that kind of attitude in the store towards me for simply working here, then you can leave. He scoffed, thinking that this was a negotiation. He started harping on about free speech and I was allowed to say anything that he wanted in a public space. Dude, okay, I'm going to stop you there. Alright, I've seen this so many times in nerddom. Some idiot will say something that they think is edgy and cool, right? And when they fuck around and find out, they start wailing about free speech. Like, I completely agree. You should be able to say whatever you want, whenever you want. But and Mike Tyson said it best, a lot of you are far too comfortable with saying shit and not getting smacked in the mouth for it. Alright? You can say things on your little keyboard and get away with it. Try it in real life. You get slapped down. Right? And it's always idiots like that who start harping on about free speech like it's something they can hide behind. Like, free speech, yeah, you can say whatever you want, but it doesn't protect you from the consequences of just saying dumb shit to people. Right? You shouldn't use free speech as an excuse to be a fucking asshole. That's just my opinion, right? I've had it in stores, I've had it in bars, I've even had it on the Discord, man. People are like, oh, it's free speech, isn't it? Yeah, and other people are free to react to you being a twat, right? Yeah, it's like rules for thee, none for me, right? No, I get protected by free speech, you don't. Because I'm allowed to say all the offensive things that I like, but the minute you react, now I'm calling foul. Now it's all about free speech. You're suppressing me. No, I'm not. I'm telling you, you're a fucking idiot, and you should get in the sea. And I'm allowed to do that. Okay? Like, that's just where we are. My God. And if I don't want you in my space, I can literally go, please leave. It's free speech. Actually, yeah, it is. Yeah. But, you know, this is my little space here, my little corner here, and I'm gatekeeping it. Go away. I'm allowed. Yeah, I'm free as well, man. I have free speech too, and my free speech is telling me to tell your free speech to get the fuck out. That's what it's doing. And by the way, Games Workshop stores are, I'm going to say this now, are not public property. Right? You literally can't. They're not public property. They're private property. If a manager asks you to leave, you're fucking done, mate. You leave. You are done. Your afternoon is over. Go away. Anyway, dude, I'm on the Games Workshop manager's side here. Totally. Absolutely. He scoffed, thinking this was some sort of negotiation. So, yeah, I've skipped backwards a few lines there. I was expecting a climb down. There is nothing more infuriating than somebody like this thinking you are negotiating when they have absolutely no cards in their hand at all. I said, and I quote, "Why are you still standing there? Leave. You're barred from the store, mate. Take up a complaint with HQ if you want, but for now, leave the store and don't bother coming back. This is private property. If you're not gone when I'm done with this new customer, I will call security to remove you, alright?" Unquote. We were in a shopping centre, and I was really tight with Mike. His name wasn't Mike, he just reminded me of the character from Breaking Bad. Yeah, Mr. Ehrmantraut, man. Yeah. He was about as hard and was ex-police too. A rather large fellow. We'd been on several nights out and he would have Steve out of there in seconds if I actually called him. I walked away and spoke to other customers, my heart going in my chest because I didn't want there to be a scene in my store. Yeah, understandable. Thankfully Steve, now red in the face, simply walked out. The problem was, most of the veterans walked out with him, never to return. Well, that sucks. That sucks. Yeah. That sucks. I think what you're learning here, man, is that you can like give these guys a long bit of leeway in the store, but it only takes one to come in and be seen as the cool guy for it to all break apart. Because that cool guy can be an absolute douche nozzle. But if they don't see it, you're screwed. Right? You're absolutely screwed. Nerds tend to follow cults of personalities. That I've learned over the years. Like, you know, they tend to... I've been guilty of it in the past too, right? They tend to... As soon as somebody comes in who they see as cool and with a higher social standing than them, they'll generally follow the leader, right? So you can have a really cool group like this all you want, but as soon as a guy like Steve comes in, it's over. It's over, because he'll twist them to his own warped, idiotic, you know, sensibilities, and the whole thing breaks down. I'd love to say that was the end of it, but you see, because they had no recourse in the store, can you guess what they did next? I'm guessing they complained to HQ, or got you in trouble in some way. I bet some of your viewers think that they went to HQ. No, not the viewers, me. Nope. They didn't have the balls or the intelligence to do that. They went where all bottom feeders like this go. They went to Reddit. I love it. I love it. And so began the stalking of my private Facebook account, and the hacking into it as well, the random delivery sent to the store of weird cards calling me all sorts of names, the artificial tanking of the store's review ranking on Facebook and Google. It got so bad that HQ actually called me. Not angry, just concerned. When I told them what had happened, they were not surprised in the slightest, but told me that I actually had their full support. It was my trainer who actually made the call. He told me this was not the first time this had happened, and it wouldn't be the last, and that I should just ride it out. But should also know that nobody at HQ thought it was my fault. The store was going well, and that's all they cared about. Dude, I'm really jealous. I'm really, really jealous. If this had happened to me, I'd be getting fucking laughed at, mate. I'm telling you, if this had happened to me, they'd all be sitting there laughing. My trainer would be giggling and like passing it around, being a dickhead about it. You're so lucky, dude. You're the luck. Oh man, I would love this. I would have loved it, because when I had the Titan guy story, it wasn't this bad, but something similar did happen to me. Like I was getting like lots of like, you know, messages and things, and it wasn't nice. And I just got like, huh, well, so, you know, like, and just, yeah, it's horrible. Anyway, you know what, North? He says, I feared for the finances of the store without the veterans putting money behind the till, but in all honesty, they remain the same, or kinda did better. It turns out that focusing my store on recruitment actually did turn things around, or at least made sure I had an awesome space to do the hobby in for beginners. I kept to 500 point games in the store, with 1000 point games only allowed on Saturdays. That sounds kinda lame, I know, but it made sure all the beginners got games in and learned the game with me around to help them without being rushed off my feet by larger games. It became a job I really enjoyed, and eventually, the hatred and bullying online calmed down. I had to change a few things, even nuke my Steam friends list, and get an entirely new Discord profile. In the end, one of the veterans got a caution from the police for inferring that I was chasing kids around the store in a 1-star review on Google using his real name. Things kind of calmed down after that. Yeah, dude, you will always get in these groups, there are the bottom feeders of the bottom feeders. Do you know what I mean? So in these groups of absolute, douche nozzles, you will always get 1 or 2 people who try and troll like the rest of them by being clever about it when they don't have fucking brains. Happens all the time, and they use like their real name, or they out other people in the group. It's hilarious. Happens all the time. Anyone who's been a victim of trolling like this and idiotic groups like this will know what I'm talking about. There's always 1 or 2 who are like, oh, let me try as well, duh, and they do it with their real name, or they dox their own friends and things. It's absolutely hilarious. I love it when it happens. Anyway, I left Games Workshop to run my own store, moving to America to help my father-in-law's business and then taking it over. He ran a failing hobby store on the West Coast. And for the last 7 years... Sorry, he ran a failing toy store. That's not hobby store. Toy store. Alright, cool. And for the last 7 years, I built it into a decent hobby location in our city. San Diego has many things, but gloomy skies aren't one of them. I won't give the name because I love my current situation too much, and to be honest, these memories already give me clammy hands as I'm typing them out. I want no trace of it in my new life here. That's understandable. Anyway, I love the Hobby Nightmares. I have them on in the store on the speakers during Veterans Nights. Yes, I have them, but they are strictly invite from me only. Love to you and yours, my friend, as Actor Black. Dude, you got out while the going was good. I'm betting you got out when they really started clamping down on gaming in stores. That probably is what you did. But well done for getting on to the other side of that really horrid shit pile. Sometimes as a Games Workshop manager, you don't get the rewards. Like you were doing your best there, it sounds like, and you just didn't get the rewards for being trusting. You trusted the nerds, the dudes in your store. By the way, I'm not a nerd hater. I am a nerd. I love it when people say that. He hates nerds. No, man. I am one, right? I am one, literally. But I will call it out. If I see bad behaviour, I'll call it out. It's only you dickheads who can't take a little bit of feedback. Dude, I have to take feedback all the time. It's called a comment section, right? If I've got to take it, you've got to take it. Take your fucking medicine. If you get triggered by it, go fuck yourself, right? So, sometimes if you've got a group in your store or in your gaming group or even in your Discord, and you give them enough space you trust them enough to police their own space and you treat them as adults, sometimes you don't get their rewards. Sometimes they start acting like children, and when you come down on them, they'll start whinging and rending their garments and crying about it, despite them being grown-ass men, right? So when you're in those situations, the best thing to do is go nuclear. That's just my opinion now. I've learned so much over the years running this channel and being in the hobby and running stores. Like, just go nuclear. Just go, do you know what? All y'all. Bye. Doosh. Go. It's not worth the hassle. If you're not being paid to put up with it, don't put up with it. Simple. There are clear delineations of acceptable behaviour. Job done. And anybody with a brain will back you up on that as well. Anyway, I love you all long time. I'll see you tomorrow for some more 40k rantage, where we'll be ranting about... I think we're doing a revisit of a 40k rant, and it's going to be the community's choice. That's going to be awesome. I'm going to really enjoy that. Anyway, I love you a long time. I'll speak to you tomorrow for some more 40k rantage, and then Wednesday for some more hobby nightmares. I think we have a really good role-playing one on Wednesdays. I can't wait to get into that one. Love you all. Speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.